You've tuned into Killin It Korner, bite-sized YouTube shorts with real conversations featuring people who are redefining life, work, and purpose in their next chapter. No fluff, no retirement rules, just honest lessons learned and what it really looks like to keep killing it. Before we begin our session, here is our upcoming guest's bio. Steve O'Connor is a senior executive with deep experience in housing policy, advocacy, strategic planning, and external relations. He's known for building strong partnerships and advancing collaborative solutions to complex affordable housing challenges. Steve is the architect of the Mortgage Bankers Association's place-based convergence initiatives, focused on closing the racial housing homeownership gap with active programs in Memphis, Columbus, and Philadelphia, and expansion underway. He currently serves as chair of the National Housing Conference and is active on housing-related boards and councils with Freddie Mac, Rocket Mortgage, National Urban League, Homeownership Council of America, and National Association of Hispanic Real Estate Professionals. His work is grounded in a genuine commitment and passion to helping people. Hey there, welcome to another episode of Killin It Korner. I am so excited today. I am here with Stephen O'Connor. Steve and I work together at Mortgage Bankers Association, and actually Steve and I retired on the exact same day. He gave his retirement notice first, and then I came along behind him and decided that sounded like a really good day to retire. And so we both retired September 30th of 2024, and we've stayed in touch. So I want to welcome Steve to my Killin It Korner.
Lisa, great to be here. Thank you. And that was a fun going away event they had for us at MBA, the staff. You were my prom date.
Absolutely. Yep. Steve was my prom date, and we had a great time. And we were both smiling so much, everybody was a little bit unnerved and jealous. But when it's your last day and they're throwing a party for you, you have nothing but smile. It's been a great time to be here. What I loved about that party, Steve had been at MBA way longer than I had. He had been in 25 plus years. I was there just 10. I loved all the accolades for people who had worked with him that long. So that was just amazing. So Steve, tell us where you are now in your journey. Talk a little bit about how you got to where you are.
Yeah, sure. Well, first, Lisa, thanks for having me. And you were a great colleague. I trusted your competence, your judgment, your intentions. You were just a joy to work with. So thank you.
Thank you.
So yeah, at the end of 2024, I walked away from MBA after 28 years, and I immediately started a consulting practice and working with mission-based clients in the affordable housing space. In hindsight, the one mistake I made is I took on too much too soon. And so it felt like it was continuing my job. And I am in the process now, we'll talk about this, of kind of rebalancing and kind of pruning back. But that first year after MBA felt very much like I was still working. And when you're a consultant, as you know, because I think you've done some of that, it's different because you're at the beck and call of your client. And so that presents its own challenges. And so I didn't feel like I could control my schedule. So I'm in a better place now, but that first year was kind of tough. So right now, this is the year of transition. I'm trying to rebalance, recalibrate, and try to figure out how I want to spend my time and my energy.
Steve, you are so right about that. I had the same problem in a different way, right? I keep saying to people, I didn't give myself permission to take time off. And had I done that, in my first year, I left and I'm taking 2 different certifications. And then I decided I'm going to write a book. Like, who does that their first year? And like you, I kind of hit this wall. And I then at the second half of the year started to regroup and am now like you, piecing apart, what do I really want to do? What do I want to spend my time on? So talk a little about what surprised you the most about just leaving your role. What kind of surprised you?
Yeah, well, 2 things. You hit on one of them, giving yourself permission to kind of say no or not yet, and shifting that mindset, right? For a lot of us, our default setting for decades is go, go, go. And being able to tell myself it's okay not to constantly work, that being retired means you're allowed to take time off. And then setting the boundaries around that. As I said a moment ago, when clients would call and say, hey, we want to do something at 9 o'clock tomorrow, I always said yes. And now I'm more in the mindset, if it's important, I'll do it. But otherwise, I'll say, that's not a good time. I've got another commitment. And so getting to that point where I felt okay doing that took me about a year, longer than I thought.
Wow. It's funny. The first time someone said they wanted to meet with me at 8:30, I started laughing and I said, I don't meet with anybody at 8:30 in the morning anymore. They said, oh, well, how early? I said, I'll do 9:30 for you, but just because it's you. But normally I don't do anything really kind of before 10 o'clock because I don't have to. And
Yeah.
so that routine that you're in, it's not as easy as people think to jump out of that routine and say, hey, I'm going to sit on the couch, particularly when you've been in roles that we have. I had the pleasure of serving with Steve on the senior management team at the MBA. I consider Steve to be the voice of calm and Lisa to be the voice of what needs to be said. And so we made a great pair, right?
Yeah.
Steve was
Yeah.
always the calm voice in the room, and I was always, look, this just needs to be said, okay? But walking away from that, you're operating here all the time. Your expectations on you are high, and then you walk into something where the expectations are only what you set them up to be. Are there any assumptions about retirement or your next chapter that you've already challenged for yourself?
Yeah, I think you hit on some of it. You have these social anchors and routines when you're working, right? And then those kind of get obliterated. You have to create new ones from scratch. And that's much more challenging, I think, than most people realize. It certainly was for me. Your whole identity is shifting, your priorities are shifting, your routines and how you spend your time. And so you have to create new structure. And when you've had structure provided for you for so many years, that can be a challenge.
It absolutely can. And so some people have asked, like, how do you know what you want to do after you retire? You seem to know right away, this is something I'm going to do. And you were the senior vice president of affordable housing. And so, I always say to people, well, what were you doing and did you love it? And how can you turn your knowledge into something? So talk a little bit about how you knew you were going to be able to walk into kind of affordable housing consulting and enjoy yourself.
Yeah, well, it's something I really enjoy. I'm passionate about it. Gives me a sense of purpose and meaning. I have a decent amount of expertise and a lot of connections. So I felt I could be successful. The question is, did I want to do that? And I felt like it was a good way to give expression to certain values that are important to me, service to others, right? And trying to do things to make the world a better place. We often say that, but what can we do in a concrete way to fulfill that? And so that's what I've been trying to do by working with these clients. And it just feels right to me. It's just this process more or less of discernment, right? What
Mhm.
feels right? What provides consolation? It's kind of a gut feeling, right? And those things
Yeah.
that when you think about doing them, it creates anxiety, doesn't feel right. Then you got to say no to those things. So it's just a matter of listening to yourself.
Yeah, and I think sometimes we don't listen to our gut because somebody convinces us that we're really good at something. And because you're good at it, doesn't necessarily mean you should do it. And I'm sure you've experienced that as you've been retired now, that people feel like, but Steve, you're really good at this. And I think you'd be great in this spot. And I don't know if anybody's tried to talk you back into a job, but I've had several people approach me about jobs and I'm like, I don't want a job.
Yeah, no, I've had some of that. I mean, and somebody did come to me with an interesting consulting engagement, but I couldn't get excited about it. It just didn't feel like something I wanted to spend my time and energy on. And so I listened to myself, and that was good.
Yeah, that's the thing. One of the things that's so good about this is the excitement that you can feel if you find that right thing when you retire. You walk into something, you said you're passionate about affordable housing, you were passionate about it when you worked at the MBA, and essentially created your own position to say this is really important. And I think that that's one thing people have to really consider is what are you passionate about? And sometimes that's hard because we've spent so much time, as you mentioned, in a schedule, in a routine, that maybe we haven't even had a chance to think about what we're passionate about
Yeah.
anymore. And so it feels kind of out. And so for you, as you restructure, as you're really looking at your schedule, what does killing it look like for you right now?
Well, my goal is to create better life balance. We all talk about that. It's elusive, right? But really spending time on things that give me a lot of psychic feedback, right?
Okay.
That feed me, to feed my soul, more or less. I work for a long time and I'm fortunate that I have the ability not to work if that's what I want to do. And so when I work, I want it to be on things that give me meaning and purpose. And that's what I'm trying to do is trying to figure out where do I want to spend my time and my energy that's going to give me the highest return on investment, so to speak.
Yeah, and that's super important because at this stage you really can do anything or you can do nothing. And so, when you're afforded the opportunity to retire at whatever age you are, you want to make sure that that's it. The one thing I want to touch on, probably nowhere near any of the questions, is this issue of connectivity and network. And I don't know about you, but I definitely find that I have to work harder now that I'm retired to stay connected to people, to nurture my network. Talk about what you're doing to stay connected. I know you're doing consulting, and all that requires
Yeah.
us to stay connected to people.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. You get a lot of organic opportunities when you're employed, right? At
Exactly.
events and functions. But I've been pretty aggressive about maintaining contacts, texting
Good.
people, meeting for lunch, meeting for cocktails, meeting for coffee. I try to do that 2 to 3 times a week.
Wow.
Yeah, and I'm in a good location in Washington D.C. where I can get downtown easily to see a lot of my friends and colleagues, and so I do that a couple times a week. But I'm very intentional about it, Lisa. I mean, I make a point of reaching out to certain people.
Well, you've always been really good at that anyway. Like that was always something that you were good at. Some of us not so much, but and we can learn. And so me, I'm still working on my little spreadsheet that's helping me to track who I need to be contacted to. So I'm getting better at it. But I love your idea. I'm also not in that DMB area, which is it just makes it harder because I'm now when I do come to town, I do try to connect with some people, former colleagues, and but I'm trying to use text more. I'm trying to instant message people more and just stay connected to them and at least keep that running list of who are the people I want to make sure I stay connected to. And I think that's really important. I definitely think that that's something that's a gift and a skill that you have that others could use.
Yeah, no, you do
So
have to be intentional about it, no doubt.
you absolutely do. And so, given where you are in your journey, what you've experienced so far, what advice would you give somebody who's either thinking about this transition or it's kind of early in this transition, or maybe they're not early and they still haven't figured it out?
I think the key is to be patient with yourself and to be comfortable being uncomfortable because it's a big transition, right? Your whole identity and sense of purpose is changing. And to show yourself some grace and realize that you can't figure it out overnight, and it's trial and error. You're gonna try different things, and eventually you'll start to feel more comfortable being uncomfortable. But it is a transition. It's a big change in your role, your identity, your priorities, your purpose, and you just gotta kind of navigate it one day at a time.
And I think people underestimate the change in the identity piece. But I want to say, like Steve, I ran into that, maybe smack into it or whatever, but I ran into that identity piece. It's the moment you realize you are not whatever that title was that you were
Yeah.
carrying, the senior vice president or something. It's almost like you didn't realize it meant something to you until now you don't have it. You're like, I just don't have that title anymore, right? And you're finding who you are now.
Yeah, that's well said. That's exactly right.
Yes, it has been great talking to you, Steve. I'm glad we've stayed in touch and caught up. Now you've inspired me to 2 to 3 times a week to reach out to people, do a better job of my network. So I am going to do that. But it's been great catching up with you. Thank you for joining me.
Thank you, Lisa, so much. I miss seeing you.
I'm seeing you too.